Golconda, the word in Telugu means the Shepherd's Hill. And this Shepherd's Hill is one of the most beautiful historic landmarks in the whole of India. This is where on the hillside are eschewed the ruins of a once majestic fort, the Golconda. And the stones tell tales to whoever wants to listen of the days when this was a glorious place. The place started off as a small clay fort established by the Kakatiyas, who moved from Warangal under pressure from the Delhi Sultans. In years to come, the rulers here were the Bahmanis and Kutub-Shahis, and each one of them added to the buildings within the fortifications, and all of them have left a distinct imprint on the place. Here we witness a wonderful confluence of architectural styles: Persian, Turk, Indo-Afghan, North Indian, South Indian. Something special evolved here called the Dakkini.
Ten kilometers away from the city of Hyderabad, the Golconda Fort sprawls on a hill. It was famous not only as a massive citadel or a fortified city, but also as a fabulously rich principality. Its strategic significance was appreciated manifold after the Battle of Talaikota. The fort protected the capital and also provided a safe haven for rich international traders.
ఐదు మైళ్ళ దూరాన ఉన్నది గోలుకొండ కిల్లా సోదర గోలుకొండ ఘన చరితను ఈనాడే 600 ఏండ్లకు పూర్వం విధి పేరు మానుగల్లో సోదర గోలుకొండ ఘన చరితను ఈనాడే కాకతీయ గణపతి దేవుడు.
Many famous names that have shaped the destiny of the Deccan are associated with Golconda. The first that springs to mind is Kutub-Shahi and others of his dynasty who patronized music and arts. And how can one forget Aurangzeb, who captured it and annexed it to the Mughal Empire? Golconda Fort is built on a steep hill 400 feet high. 3 rows of thick walls surround it as a first line of defense. The city lay within the outermost rampart. The following rampart protected the citadel and the palaces. The most sensitive part of the fort was girdled by the 3rd rampart. 87 towers were on these ramparts, and 8 massive gates controlled entry points.
It was one of the most contemporary forts of its time. Cannon was already prevalent as a mechanism against the defenses of forts in Europe as well as in India, and the forts of India were by then being designed to cater to protect the defenders against onslaught by cannon. Golconda has very well-designed bastions which cover most of the wall surfaces. In most of Golconda ramparts we see the battlements have openings which protect very well the defenders, being a very rocky and hard strata. helped Golconda become a legend in its time. It was never taken by force. When it fell to treachery.
Aurangzeb invaded Golconda in 1687. After a futile siege lasting 8 months, he finally gained entry with the help of a traitor. With the victory of the Mughals, the reign of the Kutub-Shahis ended. And Tanna Shah, the last ruler of that line, was sent to a royal prison in Daulatabad. Golconda became a province of the Mughal Empire, but managed to preserve its identity. Golconda remained an important center of Deccani culture.
And it has not only played a very important role from the point of view of army and military, but also from the point of view of civilization and culture. You may be aware of the fact that the Kutub-Shahi dynasty was a Shia dynasty, and they trace their descent from Karakoyunlus of Iran. And they are all people who came and settled down here from Iran and Mawaraun Nahar. They maintained a very secular culture despite the fact that they were the people who were Shias, and they had declared Shiism to be their state religion, yet they continue to cater to the requirements of the people of the various facets of life, belonging to different cultures, speaking different languages, belonging to different races, and so on and so forth. It was a wonderful period of the Kutub-Shahis, close to about 200 years of history, and it's a very, very important period in the history of the
The Kutub-Shahi Sultans of Golconda developed a new architectural style that was a confluence of Hindu, Muslim and Persian styles. Most of the old buildings were destroyed by invaders. The rest have been humbled by time. The Raja Rani Mahal is a cluster of palaces that sought to replicate paradise on earth.
All of these forts, or the gardens let's call it, they are supposed to be microcosms of paradise, where rivers of honey and milk flow and beautiful ladies waiting for all the good fellows. It is a very symmetrical plan. Symmetry is very much part of them. They don't go asymmetrical. These people used to consider design in all its aspects, in all its senses. They used to design not only for the visual, but the audial, for the tactile, for the olfactory. And olfactory, taste and smell, again you call it aroma, so to speak. So these buildings were built to sensualize you in all of these, with all of these senses.
Bala Hisar Gate, the main entrance to the fort, built in the Deccani style, is delicately decorated. Triangular arches are covered with fine lace-like work on stone. We see Hindu motifs that are found in temples, as well as images of birds and animals.
There were barbarians coming into this country, there were all sorts of people coming into this country, and they had to build forts and abandon forts. But when the Kutub-Shahis came here, they came with the intention of living here.
The Kutub-Shahi rulers were liberal in their outlook and understood it well that to rule the people's hearts, they would have to adopt their ways. Their palaces blend Hindu, Islamic and Persian styles.
because of their beliefs, because that they believe that a human being is a human being and not a kafir and not a Hindu and not a untouchable, and all of these things were not there. Part of the culture. Even today it is not part of the Iranian culture to look at others other than Shias as less human beings. That ethic helped them to integrate themselves with the local culture.
Tam, tadhim, tattadhim, tadin kritikatari tadhim, tattadhim, tadin kritikatari tadhim, tattadhim, tadim tari tadhim, tattadhim, tadim tari tadhim, takatadhim, takatari tadhim, takatadhim, takatari tadhim, takatari tadhim, tattum, tannam, tattam, tadim, tatum, tannam, tadi ginnata, tam, tadim, tatum, tannam, tadding ginnata, tam, tadim, tatum, tannam, tadding ginnam, tadding ginnam, Golkonda, tanishu parana.
The Kuchipudi style of dancing evolved during the period of the Kutub-Shahi sultans. They patronized folk forms along with classical genres. Names of talented danseurs like Taramati and Padmavati are associated with this fort. Artists from all over India came to Golconda and regaled audiences here.
François Martin, the French director, on his voyage from Pondicherry to Surat, was going in June 1681. He came across a large troop of courtesans, Devdasi, and they were coming and very happy and performing. So he asked them, "What are you? Where are you coming from?" He said, "We are coming from Golconda city fort." He says, "Every year the king Sultan of Golconda calls for a reunion of the dancing women of the empire, and 10 to 12,000 dancing women congregate at the fort." And at the city. Now think of it. What kind of a magnet and patronage the fort city is. If you look at the descriptions of the nobles and their palaces and their movement in the city, that their cavalcades of 300 to 400 camels and elephants marching from one palace to another, to the imperial palace, they are remarkable.
Golconda attracted traders from foreign lands, far and near. They were attracted by the dazzle of Golconda. It was a world-famous diamond market and an entrepot.
Golconda draws like a magnet. The magic and the romance of the legends that grew up here made us marvel as children, and now that we understand better and can analyze for ourselves, it still continues to draw. It's really magic. The terrain, the levels at which the monuments are at different heights is wonderful because it gives it so many different dimensions. It's a huge discovery to visit.
There are a number of mosques in Golconda. Shahi Masjid is the most prominent among these.
The history of Deccan particularly reflects the type of relationship we had, the Ganga Jamuna Tehzeeb which we refer to, and particularly in Hyderabad we have that particular culture where the ruler, the ruled, they live together almost, and we do not find even one communal tension throughout the history of the Kutub-Shahi.
Bala Hisar is the highest point in Golconda. The bird's eye view of the entire fort from the Baradari makes surveillance of the entire fort easy. This part of the fort also has beautiful open-air porticos that could be used as halls of audience for general public and nobles.
It's not just the buildings of Golconda which are a part of the life of every Hyderabadi. It's the rich history. It's about love. It's about the riches that went through, you know. A human being, I think, needs his history and heritage to survive. It will be very difficult and very bland and very boring to live without referring to your culture and heritage.
One of the most enduring enchantments of the fort of Golconda is the romantic tale of the love affair between Kutub-Shahi and his beautiful beloved dancer Bhagmati. To immortalize her, the prince founded the city of Hyderabad. But much more than the city of Hyderabad, the memory lingers on in the folklore. It has inspired many poets, musicians and dancers. They continue to perform and retell this story, and the legend lives on.
మల్లేశ్వరుని సన్నిధానమున తందాన తందాని తందాన ఆడుతూ పాడుతూ ఆరాధించి తందాన తందాని తందాన చిరునవ్వులతో పువ్వుల సజ్జతో తందాన తందాని తందాన ఆలయం నుండి బయలుదేరిన తందాన తందాని తందాన
Bhagyamati made Kuli Kutub Shah a poet and remained his lifelong muse, source of inspiration and beloved. The presence of these lovers is palpable even today, as one stands amidst the ruins in Golconda.
Most of the Mughal records refer to Bhagmati in very derogatory terms. But the Hyderabadis have been proud of this romance, because you need romance to keep alive legends and to keep alive your culture and your history. And this was a perfect legend for the people of Hyderabad. They love not only Bhagmati and Muhammad Quli, but also the records of their romance through, be it Muhammad Quli's poetry or his architecture, the Charminar, or various other monuments and buildings.
Muhammad Quli constructed a small mosque for Bhagmati. This is where she used to offer namaz. The Sultan did this despite strong opposition from conservatives. The Charminar was constructed by Kuli Kutub-Shahi and reflects the same lofty vision, compassion and pluralism.
You come from a specific cultural, racial background to a country where there is this tremendous racial plurality already flowing. So you become a part and you find yourself acceptable within that, and you find that thing enriching. Therefore they became not only they validated themselves, in fact, in a manner of speaking, by taking part in that plurality, and which again in its turn created new forms in languages, new genres of expression and all that.
Deccani miniature paintings occupy a very special place in the cultural inheritance of Golconda. This style is characterized by the liberal use of gold paint.
Golconda is not just the name of a fort. The word conjures up visions of a bustling city that once flourished here within the ramparts of these forts. It had dazzling marketplaces mentioned in the accounts of foreign travelers like Tavernier and others. Here one could buy pearls from Basra, delicate silks from China, and noble horses from Arabia. And how can we forget that Golconda is the place that gifted mankind the largest diamond ever known, aptly called the Mountain of Light, the Kohinoor.
Golconda was once a part of the Vijayanagar Empire. Marco Polo and Manucci have mentioned it as a world-famous mart for diamonds and chronicled its prosperous and opulent lifestyle.
There's a great amount of trade activity in and around the fort. Trade caravans regularly pass through the fort. For the fort has sarais and the fort has various kinds of accommodations and various things. Golconda Fort is like a city. And Golconda was known for high quality, high value trade also. It was a center of diamond trade, it was a center of many other precious commodities, precious metals, all sorts of things used to pass through Golconda. And as a consequence of which, the larger the volume of trade, the greater the amount of commerce, the greater the amount of surplus available, the greater the need of protection, the larger the fort, the heavier the fortifications, the thicker the walls.
At the base of the sprawling fort are the tombs of the Kutub-Shahi rulers. The dome emerging out of the petals of a huge lotus is first seen here. These sepulchres, like other buildings in Golconda, represent a harmonious blend of Persian, Turkic, and Hindu styles. This final resting place of the Kutub-Shahi sultans testifies eloquently to their humanism, Catholicity, and good taste. The mausoleums were conceived as magnificent memorials to men of many talents. These aren't mute edifices. Their silence is eloquent. They remind us that not everything ends with death. True beauty is eternal, and love is immortal.